Hey everyone, factoring into today's video, we're going to have a look at weather for the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, this will be taking us up towards the middle of November. Can you believe day 10 is the 14th of November? I think it's going to be staying quite unsettled, becoming quite unsettled. Low pressure is going to be close by, but high pressure in quite interesting positions. Now, I don't think the high pressure is ever going to, certainly in the next 8 to 10 days anyway, ever going to get in a position to give us really cold weather. But it's not far from that. You'll be able to have a look at what I'm talking about in a few moments. But the high pressure is certainly indicating to be in quite unusual positions, and wouldn't take much, I don't think, to evolve into a cold pattern. Before I get on with that though, just want to mention the ads. There's links to articles sitting underneath web video here on the homepage at gasweatherviz.com. Have a browse through which if there's any article you're interested in, just click through and you'll be able to go off and read that article when you finish the website, of course. Also to say about Gav Shop, it's open for business, so if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon, just click through the Amazon banners. That's the key to it. In Gav Shop, you see the Amazon banners. Click through the Amazon banners. You'll be able to go off to Amazon and do your Christmas shopping as normal. At the same time, GasWeatherViz will get a royalty fee on the things that you're purchasing because you've gone through to Amazon from gasweatherviz.com. There's green keyword ads on some of the pages, so if you right cursor over green keywords, they'll display ads. If you click through words, you go to Chapter's website. Having to support gasweatherviz.com by doing that. And there's an ad unit down in the discuss comment box as well. So if you want to leave a comment, do so by all means, but also have a look at the ad units down there as well. And just to say, we've got the latest update from Huug and Doul at the end of the video as well for the winter. This will be the last one from the US forecast for Huug and Doul. So hang around to the end of the video, some very interesting charts coming up then. So we'll deal with the next 8 to 10 days first of all. We've got the hydro anomaly flow charts here. First of all, as we always do for these 8 to 10 day videos, got the E70UF over on the left, but GFS is on the right, 500 miles, 80,000 feet. It's an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by a jet stream running above. Blue extrapolating to low pressure, orange and red extrapolate to high pressure. Now, quite interestingly, the next 8 to 10 days anyway, we're seeing a very similar pattern across the United States to that which we had last winter. So we've got a lot of blocking here around Alaska and the Pacific side of the United States and Canada. We've got this deep trough being formed because of that blocking, forcing cold air down on its eastern side. We've got a deep trough being formed here across the east of the United States and the northeast of the United States. That's taking cold air down into the eastern part of the states. The ECM and the GFS are both showing that trough setting up, so I think there'll be cold air digging in across many northern and eastern parts of the states in the next 8 to 10 days time. Now that's a very similar pattern to what we had last winter in terms of setup over America. The difference at the moment is that we've got quite a lot of above average heights, quite a lot of blocking sitting to the east of the country, indicated by all of these orange and red colours just here, extending to the north and the east of the British Isles. And because of that, this trough that we've got on our side of the Atlantic, these blue colours just here, really being blocked by that blocking sitting to the east of the country. And instead of the trough just pushing west to east as it did, you'll remember, throughout the whole of last winter, this trough is sort of being pushed down to the south quite a bit. It's heading down towards Spain and Portugal. Now, because of how the ridge and the trough are aligned, it's not a desperately cold pattern by any means, because generally the flow is sort of southeasterly, southerly, maybe a little bit easterly at times, but it's not coming in from a cold source. But it wouldn't take much really to shift this high pressure into a position that could start to allow colder air down. So we've got to keep an eye on it, where this is going as we get into the latter stages of November. We're not all that far from cold weather on that sort of a setup, but it's just not quite right. But we're going to have to keep an eye on what's going on with that, I think. Here are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, and we're going a little bit below average actually at the moment. We are a little bit below average. We had a frost this morning. We're going to have another slight frost tomorrow morning, and then Wednesday night, bonfire night, I think it could get a bit colder. We could have a proper air frost. These are just ground frost again over the next couple of nights, but tomorrow night, Wednesday night, could get a proper air frost setting in you have to wrap up warm if you're off to bonfire and fireworks parties. After that, we tick up a little bit associated with this rainfall spike here, so bring another area of low pressure through, and then really the signal is quite unsettled, quite a lot of rain coming through there, lots of rainfall spikes, and the temperature ensembles are around, or maybe even going a little bit below, above average next week. And certainly no sign that we're going back to the exceptional warmth that we had at the end of October. No sign of that, but equally not really a great deal of signs of anything particularly cold coming through either. Just near normal to slightly above average, probably through the second week of November, with quite a bit of rain coming in as well. That's because the trough is being stuck out to the west of the country. The temperature anomaly, look at this, for the week from the 4th to the 12th of November is coming out ever so slightly below average. We haven't seen that very often in the really warm year of 2014. We did see it in August, but other than that, we've not really seen below average temperature anomalies on these charts all year. But we are a little bit below average for the coming week, although I think once we get the next couple of nights out of the way, the next couple of frosty nights out of the way, we'll find this going above average again. Not by a great deal, but probably going just a little bit into those salmon pink, as the warmth is gone off into the east. That's where our warmth from last week has pushed off to into the east of Europe. The United States, looking at cold temperature anomalies here for the coming week, so that's as that cold trough is beginning to dig in to the north and the east states. Warmer in the west, where we've got that ridging in the west of states and going up in towards the Pacific side of Canada and Alaska, but it is colder in the east and northeast of states. There could well be some early season snowfalls over there. So here's the GFS generic charts for next week, and we find low pressure sitting out to the west of the country. No sort of say about the high pressure being in interesting positions. We are hinting at high pressure up over Greenland, not in a position or strong enough really to deliver any cold weather to us at that stage, but it's interesting that we have got hints of above average heights up over at Greenland, and also high pressure extending through Scandinavia and in towards Russia as well. But the main flow across Europe really is southerly to southeasterly, so warm air is actually being dragged up from the Med. So I'd say there's no sign of anything really cold, anything particularly cold coming up for the foreseeable future. It's just the patterns at the moment that are interesting me. Normally at this time of year you would expect a very zonal setup with a strong jet stream and low pressure up here, high pressure ridging through here from Spain into France, and a really westerly setup. That's the kind of setup we had through November last year, and we're not really seeing that at the moment. So it's just the pattern that I'm finding quite interesting. Don't think the weather will actually be doing anything all that interesting for the foreseeable future. A lot of similarities with the charts I'm looking at the moment between this year and 2009. Interestingly, 2009 was a very wet and quite a mild November, but it did all evolve eventually into quite a cold winter pattern. As we go through to Tuesday the 11th, again high pressure up over Greenland, but not really producing any cold weather, or certainly not producing any cold weather. We're just stuck under this trough, which will be bringing showers or longer spells of rain, and sort of mildish, average to mildish sort of temperatures. The low pressure begins to slip southwards a little bit down towards the Bay of Biscay as we go through to the middle of next week, so maybe signs that this high pressure is getting a little bit more influential, starting to push the jet stream southwards and taking that low pressure down to the south of the country. And then moving through to day 10, which is Friday the 14th of November, the low pressure is down to the south and the east. High pressure is trying to get in to Scandinavia, so cold air is beginning to try to push in towards Scandinavia, but the high pressure is ridging in from the Azores. So what's going on here basically is that high pressure is trying to take over the pattern. It's not particularly cold, though it would be cooler, probably cold enough for night frost, but the really cold air is up here with this high pressure, and it's trying to dig in towards Scandinavia, but I don't think it's quite going to make it. But it isn't all that far away, I've got to say, it isn't all that far away from pushing some very cold air down into Scandinavia, and once that cold air gets into Scandinavia, then of course all bets are off with quite what happens beyond that. But so far no sign of anything desperately cold or particularly cold coming up. The ECMWF for the start of next week shows again quite a messy picture, but the general idea is that low pressure is slipping southwards and high pressure is trying to nose down from the north. Moving through towards the middle of next week, the patterns remain quite interesting. Low pressure sort of out to west and southwest of the country being pushed by the jet stream down towards Spain and Portugal. Lot of high pressure there up over Scandinavia and backing in towards the East Europe. Again, it's not a cold pack, because look where the ice bars are coming from. They're actually dragging up from the Mediterranean, really. Mediterranean air being pushed up. So despite the fact the patterns are interesting, the actual weather probably going to be quite damp, quite wet, and relatively mild, and particularly mild over in the east of Europe. Now we go through to day 10, which is Friday, 14th of November, and again this idea that the low pressure is becoming cut off somewhere around the Bay of Biscay, Spain and Portugal. High pressure trying to nose down from the north, actually setting up around Iceland, so that's very interesting. Normally at this time of year I expect low pressure around Iceland, but is seeing high pressure around there, and cold air probably trying to start to push southwards with this low pressure just here, probably trying to push southwards into Scandinavia. But again, nothing there that would suggest any cold weather coming up, certainly to the middle of November, or any particularly cold weather coming up to the end, to the middle of November. But again, it's just the patterns that are really interesting me. Now, let's have a look at the winter update from Huug and Doul before I go. You'll remember we've looked at these charts quite a lot over the last few months. This will be the last update from Huug covering the December, January, February period. And these are analog based forecasts, so they're based on sea surface temperature anomalies. This one was drawn up in October. Huug looks at the sea surface temperature anomalies across the globe, and then from that compares to past years with a similar sea surface temperature anomaly, and from that sort of extrapolates to where the weather patterns may go, and creates an analog based forecast. It's a 500 millibar height anomaly chart that you're looking at here again, and we've got blue indicating below average heights, low pressure, red is indicating above average heights, high pressure, and it's a very similar signal to what Huug has been seeing for the last several updates, with lots of blocking, with these red curves being indicated around Greenland for the winter. The trough is underneath it through the central part of the Atlantic, so the North Atlantic Oscillation is very negative here. And cold air with this blocking is being pushed southwards into the mid-latitudes, and this low pressure would be providing plenty of precipitation into southern parts of Europe. That's the anomaly for December to February. Can see the anomaly for January to March. It's very similar. Again, lots of blocking to the north, the trough of low pressure to the south. So even from December to February, and then from January to March, Huug is seeing a very similar pattern, with lots of northern blocking, negative Arctic oscillation and a negative North Atlantic oscillation, and cold air will be shoved down into the mid-latitude. So this is the temperature forecast based on that analog 500 millibar high anomaly analog. And look at this again, it's the same signal that Huug has been seeing for so many updates now. The cold air is extending throughout the whole of Europe and into Russia as well. Very cold anomalies there. The core of the cold is for central western parts of Russia, but even into Central Europe, the temperature anomalies are coming out 2-3 degrees below average. That's a significantly colder than average winter for most of Europe. The British Isles is just over here in the far right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it, and it's the same signal. We're hedging our bets with this. Does the cold air get to us, or do we remain under the Atlantic influence? So the actual anomaly there is actually near normal. We're around average, but the cold air is so close, and it's really is very cold air across most of Europe. We would be at risk of several incursions, I think, of that cold air pushing in. So would we end up with a cold and average anomaly? Would we end up with an average anomaly? I'm not sure. Would depend just exactly how frequently those cold incursions push in, but certainly on that sort of a setup with so much blocking to the north, I would suspect we'd probably come out with a colder than average winter in the end. In terms of the rainfall anomaly that Huug is seeing, generally it's average to dry than average, and the reason is that all these green colours are being blocked out in the Atlantic, so it shows that really the blocking should win the battle, and that should in turn give us a cold and average winter, to be honest. But all these green colours, the above average rainfall down in the Atlantic, we are at near normal or above, near normal or below average rainfall as is Scandinavia, where we've got these yellow colours as well. And notice around the south of Greenland and over towards Iceland, drier than average conditions as well, just indicating that we've got all of that northern blocking. So it's been a consistent signal from Huug and Doul for several updates. The final update before the winter is still seeing it that we're going to get, well, we should, if the forecast is right. I won't say we will definitely see this, but if the forecast is right, we should see lots of northern blocking, very cold weather coming into most of Europe. They really could well be in for it. And for us, the cold air would almost certainly incur into the country at times. Whether we would end up with a cold and average winter would just depend how frequently the Atlantic comes in and moderates things. But certainly on that sort of a setup, I would suspect a colder than average winter would be very likely. Now, that's a long-range forecast. It isn't a model, but it's a different way of forecasting, and as I always say, all long-range forecasts are to be taken with a pinch of salt, even ones that aren't model-based, and this is analog-based, but even so, take it with a pinch of salt, don't take it too seriously, and let's just wait and see what happens. Hope you found the video interesting. I'll be doing the second Christmas update on the events page this evening, so come back for that if you want to know what could happen for Christmas. That really is just for fun, and as we go through to tomorrow, it's a 5-day forecast. That's it for now, and thanks for watching.